Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my Kindle Clear Out reading vlog. So I'm going to keep this clip at the front really quick because I still have a lot to say at the end of this where I will wrap up my weekly reading as well as Kindle Clear Out. So if you're someone who doesn't like vlogs and you don't want this part, you can skip to this time in the video and just see my thoughts on every book that I read. But I definitely go into a lot more detail about the books that I read through the blog, so if you want to know that, you can do that as well. But yeah, this was super successful for me. It was really fun, although I will say that I feel like I needed longer than a week for something like this. I feel like this would be a good readathon to do like once a year and do for like a whole month, because honestly, like seeing everyone else's like TBRs and everything, I feel like I ended up purchasing as many new books for my Kindle as I did get them off of it. But what you will see is that this was very successful for me to clean up my arcs. I read 3 arcs this week and I only have like 1 left that I like need to get to, and it wasn't like super important to the bingo board, so it's fine. But that's what was most successful about this readathon for me, and I loved that. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let you see my vlog clips. I did one for the 6 days that I was doing this. I did wrap this up early. As you can tell, you're getting this on Sunday and this is the last day of it, just because I always put up my weekly reading on Sundays if I can. I just said always. When I can, I always put it up on Sundays. That's just how it is. And since I had already like blacked out the board, I figured it was okay to turn this in. So enjoy. Hey everyone, so the vlog is starting. It is the 28th. I'm super excited to be doing the Kindle Clear Out Readathon. I'm gonna have to record and get stuff done, which I know is the point of a vlog. Wow. But some of the stuff I'm going to get done is my face, but I'm going to get my breakfast going. So I figured we'll just talk and do this because, oops, that lighting is horrible. This is going to be fun. I haven't done vlogs in so long, and that's something I want to bring more back to my channel, but I'm just not sure how yet, because I have just taken up doing more other kinds of videos instead of vlogging, just because it was a better use of my time. And I feel like you guys have liked the more diverse content instead of just vlogs, and then, you know, I do my reading wrap-ups. But I like when there's like an event to do it for. That's really fun. But itty bitty secret, I am already done with one of the books. You'll see that up on my, oh, well, you won't now because this is a vlog. But I already finished Some Sort of Crazy by Melanie Harlow. So that is one of my picks that was on audio, and that's why I finished it already, is I just finished another audiobook, and I was doing a lot of editing yesterday because I made 3 videos yesterday, and I had the live viewing party for my monetization stuff, which you guys have been awesome with that. I really hope the clarity was helpful. I want that to be an ongoing conversation just because I want us to get the most out of everything. And I know that it's awkward because we are both the creators and the buyers in RomanceTube a lot, so I think it's hard because you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about this with people who are watching it, but your core viewers are, I feel like, going to be other people who want to support you and don't, you know, mind that you're making money off of them, especially when you give them content. And I think it just is so helpful when people like know what's going on, because YouTube doesn't explain this stuff very well. It's to their benefit to not explain it very well, and it's to our benefit to work together to do our best with it. But anyway, I am making myself a Jimmy Dean breakfast bowl. This is a treat for me. On Monday mornings, I usually have a lot of packages to take in because I have an eBay shop open. It's not going to be open forever, but I'm getting rid of some of my like 1,000+ book titles. And so currently that means that pretty much every day I have to go in to drop packages off so that things get put in on time. How long do I cook this for? And so, one second. And so I bought myself a treat because Yesterday was not stressful. It was fun, but there was a lot of stuff going on. And then Monday mornings at work, like I'm sure they are for a lot of us, even when we're working at home, is I have a lot of stuff to catch up on, because people will call me on the weekend even when I'm not working, and then I have to dig through everything. It doesn't look like I got a lot of customer emails, so that's good. Some of you have asked, I work for a tech company. If you Google big tech company in Fargo, you'll probably know which one that I work at. I'm gonna start slowly not talking about the places that I work as much. I don't talk about it a ton, but just because my channel is getting bigger and people don't need to know. I mean, it's not like a big scary secret, but I work in like sales for them, so dealing with a lot of that, and people decide that they want something on the weekend, and I'm like, I don't work on the weekends. Well, I don't do this job on the weekend anyway. But yeah, so anyway, let's talk about the book. I just spent 4 minutes talking about other stuff, but Some Sort of Crazy is my prompt for the oldest ebook. It was really fun. I knew I was gonna like it. It's a Melanie Harlow. I love Melanie Harlow. This is one of her older series of hers. This one, it was a Friends to Lovers, and it was two friends that, he's a rich boy, she was a more like poor girl. Now she owns her own business. She owns like a little cafe. He is a blogger, a sex blogger, and he actually like, it reminded me a lot of, what's it called? The Ugly Truth, but not, he's not as obnoxious, but like that's kind of what he does, is he blogs about his sexcapades, but he's always been in love with her, and she has had a boyfriend since they were, like, he had one chance with her. Hold on. Gotta stir it. And like their houses were right by each other when they were kids, and so every summer they would hang out with each other. And then the last summer before he went to college, he said some things to her, told her he liked her, and I think they were like drunk or something, so she didn't take it as real. And then when he came back the next year after college, she had a boyfriend, and she's had that boyfriend this whole time. And so she actually has that boyfriend at the beginning of this book, but it's clear that they're not really into each other anymore, and actually he, wants to see other people before they settle down, and she's like, fuck that, if you leave me now, we're done. Like, you can't just come back to me when you want to. And since her friend happens to be in town, and he's a sex blogger, she thinks, man, I haven't been getting my needs met, let me go to my friend. And he's like, okay, cool, this is everything I wanted, but please don't do this when you're mad at your boyfriend and then regret me. And they end up doing it. And so I forget sometimes how dirty Melanie Harlow can get, because I always think of her books being sweet hometown books, but every one of them is pretty smutty, and this one was no different. Like, this was, wow, like it was pretty dirty for a romantic comedy. It had a trope in it that I'm not a huge fan of, but I don't think that it did a bad job. It's just this kind of trope always gets pushed way to the end of the book, and so it's a kind of trope that I like to see. If you're gonna put it in a book, I want to see the consequences of this, not just, oh, we're gonna stay together. I want to see it played out if you're gonna give me that trope. So I ended up taking a star off at the end of a book that was going to be 5, because when we got to the conflict of it, and then the resolution, and then boom, epilogue. And the epilogue only jumped forward 2 months. So we didn't get to see where it went from there. And I was just sad, because I had a great time with it, and then it kind of turned at the end. So I only gave it 4 stars. I have started the next book already, which is going to be Queen Takes Knights, which is a vampire and shifter book, and holy shit, whew, it's getting hot. This is also my, nope, I have a different book that's set as the shortest book. This one, I guess, doesn't hit any prompts, but I'm planning to read as many of the books on my Kindle as I can. I have 40 books on my Kindle unread, which is a reasonable number because my friend Izzy has 1,300 unread books on her Kindle. And so I'm going to try not to buy any more this week. Or if I do, I'm like not going to count them. No, I'm just kidding. I'll have to count them. But I'll tell you more about the Vampire Shifter book when I get further into it. I've only read like 30 pages of it. But it's really hot. But I'll probably be listening to the other audiobook that I have, which is, it's actually tied for the oldest ebook because I got it the same day that I got Some Sort of Crazy. But it's The Negotiator by Avery Flynn, and this one is also still on Audible Escape. So I'm going to do that. All right, this is why I don't do vlog clips, because I talk too freaking long. I'll show you an updated picture of my board in a little bit, maybe the next clip that I do. But I'm really excited to do this. This is going to be a really long video, so I hope you like vlogs. Bye! Hey guys! All right, it is day 2. It is Tuesday the 29th, and it is almost 9 a.m. in the morning. I have a 9 a.m. conference call I have to be on. I don't have to talk or anything, I just have to listen, but I'm going to do an update real quick because I got a lot of reading done yesterday and things changed a little bit with my plan, which I used to be so much more, anal about those things before Booktube or like before this, and now it doesn't matter. So the couple things that changed, but first I'll tell you how I did. So here's my board so far. I have 3 down and 1 over, and I also posted a review last night, so I need to add a sticker there. So I technically already have a bingo, but if you saw, if you're someone who's watching my story, I'm going for blackout with mine. The only prompt that I haven't picked something for yet is the disability rep, but I've seen a lot of really great recommendations at this point, so I'm going to read one of those when they come up. I also have some that have that already, so I maybe will read one of those. I don't know yet. I have been wanting to listen to The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie because it's the only one in the series that I didn't listen to, and he is autistic in some aspects. But yeah, so what I got through yesterday. So I had already told you I'd finished Some Sort of Crazy. I finished The Negotiator by Avery Flynn. This one was like tied for my oldest, and I also just wanted to get out of there, and it was on Audible Escape, so I figured this is the perfect time to push myself to read it since Audible Escape won't be here for much longer. This was really cute. I gave it a 4-star. This is a fake dating trope. It doesn't start as a fake dating. It starts as there's this professional, and he hires a professional like buffer, not fluffer, but buffer to like keep his mother occupied, which it's weird. But he's working on a business deal and his mom keeps like trying to set him up with people. And so his brother literally puts out an ad as a joke for him to have this person. And he actually is like, you know what? I could use this person, so I'm going to do it. And so he ends up hiring Clover, and she does this for him, but then it quickly turns into not enough, so they become fake fiancés instead. And then they're like, well, she's going to be moving to Australia to like begin her dream life, and he's like, well, how about we have a sexual relationship during this time, since you're going to leave anyway, we won't have to worry about feelings and stuff. And whatever, it was cute, it was good. I will tell, like, the first half I was listening to while I was working, and usually I can still focus really well, and I just wasn't as pulled into it as I wanted to be. So I gave it a 4-star because it was still really cute and it still managed to be really sexy, and it was like a grumpy and a sunshine hero, and it was pretty cute. Then where we had kind of the change is that I was going to read Once a Promise by Pam Godwin as my newest read, and I found it on Audible, which I was going to have to purchase it on Audible, but it was only like $7. So I was like, oh, well, I'll go ahead and purchase it. And then I started it, and I thought it was going to be a second chance romance. But from looking at the reviews, it's actually a love triangle, and not in the way that I would want a story like that to be. Like this, it doesn't go towards menage. It goes towards we spend 3 books torn between 2 people, and then I pick one. And there is very little that could motivate me to read that story, and I really regret that I didn't like look up the series beforehand. But I love Pam Godwin, and I've read one of her other love triangle books, and I liked how that one went. But this one, it doesn't look like it's going to go the way that I want it to. And so, I mean, I'm annoyed that I already purchased it when I found it out, but I would be more annoyed if I'd gotten to some of the cliffhangers people said there was, and then I found out. So we're just going to call it whatever, and so I crossed that out. So instead, I had already was reading my, like, newest edition, which was called Queen Takes Knights by Jolie Sue Burkhart. So look at this cover. I heard this was a vampire menage, but this is actually the first in a currently, like, there's like 9 parts of it out. Each part is about, well, they're not all super short either, because the part I read last night was 250 pages. But it is it's a vampire queen reverse harem, and not just with men eventually. There'll be everything. And there's also like shifters, so they're like vampires, but the men can also, like, they all can also shift into different things too, so it's like double the things. Very sexy, it is that thing where, like, she's a queen this whole time and she didn't know it, and she's been on the run because her blood literally, like, calls to people, and it calls to them to come after her, but she doesn't realize that that's because she's a queen, because her mom never told her to, like, keep her safe and everything. Well, there's these 2 men who they have been looking, they feel this call, they pull to their queen, and they're not like, they're partners basically, but I guess that's a thing between these men, is that oftentimes when they end up in such a big harem, which is like what they will be, because they're called blood. They're literally called blood. Like, they're not even called, like, the Bloods or a blood. Like, they're just called blood, because once they become bonded with their queen, they literally are an extension of her blood. All the blood in their bodies belongs to her, so she can have it whenever she wants. There's a lot of female empowerment in this book. But the thing about it that I think will squeak a lot of people out, and it was really squeaking me out too, is that they like her period blood too. They like all of it. Yeah, so I know a lot of people run away from this book because holy shit. The thing though is, like, as a romance reader, I had posted this in my Discord not that long ago, asking people if they had read any books with period sex in it, because I had only read like 50 Shades of Grey with it, and everyone just, like, makes, you know, gets up in their shit about it. But I thought that that was such a, like, loving thing to see, because it's like, let's be honest, if you're in a long-term committed relationship with a woman and there is 3 to 5 days per month that this is happening, a lot of people find a way to deal with it. They lay down a towel, they, like, you know, there are ways that people do it. There's some people who will never even think about it. You're just off limits for them. But there are things about sex during a period that can be helpful for you. It can relieve cramping. Whatever. I'm not a doctor. Go check out OG Bio. Like, go look at those people. But the point is, I wanted to read a book with it in it. Was I expecting that to come in a vampire series where it's a treat for them? Oh my God, I don't even know what to say. How to do this. But, okay. Also, if you're squeamish at all, just don't even attempt this, because, like, the period blood isn't even the thing that freaked me out the most at that point. Like, by the time that happened, I was kind of like, yeah, that makes sense why they feel that way, because of what the blood does to them. So the blood is literally like, she gets ecstasy from taking it, and they get it from her as well. But also, just touching her blood, like, jacks them up. So not even consuming it, but like having it on their skin. So the sex is pretty messy, and just, I basically pretend it's like not blood because I like visually I'll like think it in my head, and then I'm just like just moving on. But so it just becomes this big cycle because they both feel good from passing it, and then because she's someone who's coming into her power, she will get like juiced up by all this, and they will have these like group orgasms. Oh my god. Oh my god. Where even if one of the blood is not with her, because I also finished the second book last night, spoiler alert, which is called Queen Takes King. And by that point, she has 5 men. And so some of them are protecting, and then some of them are in there feeding her and stuff. And when they like go into one of these frenzies where they just keep like cycling the blood back and forth, all the blood connecting to her will like have an orgasm at the same time. So even the men like protecting will like come wherever they are. So this book, like, I need to talk to Mika about this so badly, and I hope that I have already, because holy bananas. I gave the first one 4 stars because also there is a pretty crazy mythology that's being built, and in the first book I was kind of overwhelmed by it. But once I had seen what this book had to offer, when I read the sequel, which I stayed up until 2 a.m. to finish last night, I was like, okay, I'm into this book. I'm not gonna leave, even though this story, there's so much. Like, I'll go into this more in probably my like weekly wrap up that I want to talk about. But the mythology is actually really cool, and like what they're doing. And so, you know, this is basically like a matriarchal-ish thing because it's ruled by the queens, and bloods want to be connected to them. And if they're not, they can die, because certain kinds of bloods, they can only feed from a queen. Whereas other bloods, they can like feed from each other. And like that's that couple at the beginning that I was talking about, that couple that find her, that's what they are to each other. Like, they're blood bonded to each other, and they share blood between themselves. It's better when it comes from a queen, because then once the queen's blood is in them, then if they ever feed from each other by themselves, they're passing her blood around. Anyway, there's just a lot of blood. So yeah, anyway, so that's enough for this clip. Today I need to get started on my arcs because I have a ton of those. I got approved for Crazy Stupid Bromance yesterday, so I added that to my arc list. But yeah. So yeah, that's what's happening anyway. Hello, good morning. It is day 3 of the Readathon. And I realized that I've only been taking a clip once every morning, but also my clips are so long that it's probably fine. This morning is not a filming day, as you can tell, which is good. I like to give my face a rest. And now that I've been like filming as much as I have, I feel like I have makeup on all the time, which is just weird because during COVID, you like don't wear it as much. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, so Wednesday morning, let's see. Yesterday I didn't really make too much progress on my reading prompts, but I did read one more of the Isador, the House of Isador or whatever. It's the next Queen vampire book, so it was Queen Takes Queen. Still super sexy. Starting to get a lot more complicated now, which I knew it would just because this book is a reverse harem, but it's one where like the queen needs as many people as possible who are like sustaining her and feeding her, and they usually turn into orgies, and it's a whole big thing. And so more and more characters get added to this story as we go. So it's getting full of people, and it's getting more complicated as things go on. But yeah, it's still going good. I did also start an e-arc. So that was one of my challenges. I restrained myself from starting Crazy Stupid Bromance, although I will read that pretty soon, since that one actually comes out the soonest of all the ones that I got accepted for. But I'm reading Love and Other Disasters by Terri Jones, which I got approved for. That book is a contemporary romance, and it is a like mistaken identity This girl goes out with her friends and this guy like hits on her at the bar, and so her friend gives the guy a fake name because it's a joke between the two of them that he would only date some hot Russian model. And so then her friend gives him this like Russian name, and then it turns out that that guy is the blind date that her friend's boyfriend was bringing along for her. And she's like, oh, well, you only have to see him tonight. Now it's too embarrassing to tell him my real name because I lied to his face. But she ends up having a one-night stand with this guy. He's only in town for the weekend, but surprise, 3 weeks later, he's the new CFO at her company and is in charge of letting go of like half of the company to like revamp it. So he finds out she lied, and I'm only about 16% in, but I'm actually really enjoying it. I feel bad for it because I wanted to be reading a vampire book instead of this one, but I reined myself back in and I was like, no, this book is good. Give it its full attention, because the boyfriend that this is his friend, he explains to the guy, this is what happened. It was a joke. It got out of hand. She didn't think she'd see you again. And so I'm still at the point where he's really pissed, which he deserves to be a little pissed, but I think this guy is going to be pretty reasonable. But we'll see. I'm only 16% in, so I don't know how he's going to react or if there'll be any other like mix-ups that happen. But I'm enjoying it really good, really a lot. I can't talk anyway. But I'm going to keep this clip short. I have my first meeting of the day in a couple minutes, and I have a bunch of new books to put into my eBay shop. So in case you didn't know already, I'm selling a bunch of my books because I had almost 1,300 books in my one-bedroom apartment, as you probably seen from different blog clips. And so some books that I'm not going to read again, which I have a hard time letting go of books, but some of them that I'm not going to read again, I'm selling on my eBay shop. So I'll link that in the description, just because I need the space for new ones. So that's how we do. But I will check back in later with what other progress I made. All right, so it is Thursday morning, so it's day 4 of the readathon. I just had to run in to drop off some packages, and I'm gonna head back home and start my work day, which is Thursday, so just gotta make it to Friday. I can do it. Let's see, reading for the readathon yesterday, I finished Love and Other Disasters by Terri Jones. This fit my e-arc. It was a bit of a slog, and I'm sad because it had a lot of potential. Like, there was a lot of potential to that story, but it just couldn't figure out what it wanted to be. So that one starts as it's a one-night stand. This girl, her friend gives the guy a wrong name, and then it turns out to be the like blind date that she's meeting up with, because they didn't know what this guy looked like. And obviously that's what blind mean. And she doesn't mean it to go all the way because she's given this guy a wrong name, but they just have this insane chemistry with each other. So they end up having a one-night stand. He's only supposed to be in town for the weekend, but then surprise, surprise, a couple weeks later, he's the new CFO brought in to tighten up her company because her company is having some problems. So he finds out she gave him the wrong name, as well as there's some other problems happening in her company right now. And it, like, a bunch of people are getting laid off. And so she doesn't get laid off the first time, but he, you know, is really kind of like, you gave it the wrong name. Like, why would you do that? And what I did like is that when the situation gets explained to him, because then his friend who had like brought him to the bar, his girlfriend, who's the one who brought Violet's her name to it, he explains it, and he's like, hey, they did not know it was going to go this far. She didn't know she was going to like you that much, and then once she was in so far, she couldn't back out. And so Jordan is the guy's name. He's like, no, I get that, but then now I'm working with her, but I really like her and I want it to go somewhere. And then things ensue. There's two main issues I had with this. Number one It was a fade to black the entire time. This book opens with a one-night stand and we don't even see it. And I thought the reason we didn't see it is that there would be flashbacks later, or maybe they didn't remember it. They were too drunk, but no, the author was fade to black the whole time. And there's no way you could know that ahead of time. And I know it makes me sound like a sex crazed lunatic, but look at the cover of this book and just think of the other books you've read like that. Like, I would expect the sex to be there, or there at least to be a couple. The second thing that happened is the pacing and how long this book went on were way off. Like, the big blow up between the two of them happens at about 60% of the book. And also with that, it completely is not Jordan's fault what goes wrong. And he's the one who ends up needing to be the groveler and the one who has to, like, change. Granted, Violet does have her, like, come to Jesus moment a little bit later and realizes that it wasn't all his fault. But at the moment, all of his friends and everyone who knows about their relationship blames him too. And I'm like, is no one standing up for him? The fact that the thing that happens is not his fault at all. He was doing his job, and he thought she was a liar at the time that he does this thing. And it's not even a thing that hurts her. It can only help her, this thing that he does. Anyway, whatever. So anyway, that happens at like 60%. And then there is a big time apart. I hate when the time apart is extended that way. And then they get back together, and there's another 15% of the book still, where I wish that 15% of the book had I wish it had been the epilogue, because everything that happened in that really could have been in an epilogue the way that the book was going. The pacing of this was just all off. And because it was an e-arc and I don't trust this author or know them, the only reason I finished it was because I wanted to give an honest review about how I felt the whole arc of it went. And I also didn't want to cheat on my game, because I was like, I just want to finish it. So I was disappointed, because it had good potential, because Jordan, he was an awesome love interest. And that's why I gave it a 3-star, is because I really liked Jordan. And Violet gets it together right at the end. She has some issues, some family issues, some other things, but it wasn't a women's fiction, and it also wasn't sexy. So there's this like weird thing, like it wasn't really trying to teach me anything, whereas like a women's fiction is like taking a stand to like do something. I could have got in with that if that was what it was doing, but it wasn't doing that either. So I just ended up feeling like it didn't know what it wanted to be. So there's that. But today I'm really excited. Today I started Stupid, what's it called? The newest Bromance book. Crazy Stupid Bromance. I just started the first 2 chapters of it. Very excited about that. I only just read the second one last week, so I'm really glad that that worked out. And I didn't know that I was getting the arc of this, because it was a surprise wish granting on NetGalley. NetGalley does that sometimes. So I'm really excited. That book comes out at the end of October. And then, because I finished all my audiobooks that were part of this readathon, I started last night one of my October books, The Roommate by Rosie, Danon, as my audible today. And holy crap, it's so good. It's so good. I'll talk more about what it's about when I finish it, but I am loving it. Hey everybody. Woo, look at those. My hair is always such a mess when I have to wear that. All right, it's day 5 of the Kindle Clear Out Readathon, and kind is the new cool. Boom. Love this shirt. This is random facts about me. So pretty much 90% of my clothes. Wow, I look super frumpy today because I'm sitting so far back, but my back hurts, so we gotta lean a little bit. Most all my clothes are from Maurice's, and I actually was a store manager for 2.5 years before I started my current job. So Maurice's is just a store that like I've been able to wear through my entire like weight loss journey. It doesn't look like it when I'm sitting like this, but random stuff like this part of me here right now is mostly like loose skin. There's still a little bit of fat in it, but if you're someone who's been around my channel for a while, you'll know that I did a pretty extensive, like, well, I'm still doing it, but COVID has kind of like taken the train down a different track. And then I've been getting injuries kind of a lot lately. But I lost a lot of weight in the year of like 2019. So Maurice's, I've been able to wear their clothes when I was at the farthest end of their plus size, like, and now I'm more down into, I'm not using the words, but I have fit them. I have many different sizes of their clothes because I went down with it too, which is kind of cool because their clothes feel like pretty flattering for every body type, and I just really like them. But anyway, enough about that. Got my coffee here in my Harry Potter mug. Just got off my team check-in this morning. I did this yesterday. That's new. I just had wanted to do something with those books. And I really like the colored bookshelves, but I don't like when it's with missized books, which is what happens if you do it with YA and other, is they're all different sizes. I don't want to mix up my series, so I didn't want to do it with my, like, contemporary paperbacks. And so the best books to do it with are really historical romances because they're generally all the same size. One thing you learn really quickly when you do a multicolored bookshelf is that not all the books are the same size. They have these teeny tiny variations that just drive me bonkers because it's like, why can't they all be the same? But, you know, that's how it goes. So, but anyway, I really like it. And I put some like decorations on it because I'm probably going to take a lot of like Insta photos in front of it now. If you are someone who follows my Instagram, you'll know that like I've tried to up how my content looked, but I'm still not great at it. And it's not a part of my like online persona that I'm too worried about. I mostly like doing step back Saturdays and posting pretty pictures of like historical romances. It's not an area where I'm like actively trying to get a ton of followers that way, but there are quite a few people who have found me through Instagram and through shout outs on there, and I think it's a fun, like, more immediate way to ping back and forth with people. But I recently had to like mute my DM, so if you're someone who contacts me on Instagram, I will always read it, but I now only check it like 3 times a day. I had to do it with my YouTube as well. I just had to mute it. Like, I still go in and read every comment I get. You are important to me. I want to comment on it. But I was just becoming too attached to the ping of it coming up. And like I said in my YouTuber Tells All, I myself am always watching my mental health and like how I am attracted or attached to my online self and like how much attention I'm giving it, and I never want to give it more attention than it needs because this isn't my life. Like, you guys are all important to me who I talk with, but the getting enough views, the being seen the most, like, that's not my life. So I just want to be careful with it. But anyway, I still read every comment, and every heart means a lot to me. I just need to be careful that it doesn't become everything and that I don't, change who I am to get it, if that makes sense. So, enough of that. Let's talk about the Readathon. So, yesterday morning I was almost done with The Roommate, or maybe I was halfway in. I finished that. That wasn't for this Readathon at all, but I loved it. And since this is going to be like my wrap up of the week, like I'm not going to film a separate video, I want to tell you how I felt about it. I gave it 4.5 stars. This book is about a porn star, a male entertainer, and his new roommate, who's this like society rich girl, and she followed her best friend to this place, and he immediately ditches her because he's never going to love her, and she just thinks that he will, and he actually rented out his own room to someone else who happens to be Josh. Anyway, and she quickly finds out what he does, and Josh is at this place where he's seen as kind of like, a lot of women really like him in porn, so it's kind of changing how people look at him. how the industry looks at him, and him and Clara end up having a lot of discussions about that. And it was really interesting because something about Josh too is that just because he's good at having sex on camera and that like persona that's in his films doesn't mean that he's smart with the ladies, because the ladies that he's having sex with, they're paid to be there. It doesn't mean he's bad at what he's doing, because that's kind of what the point of the book is they end up trying to create something that will empower women, which is really interesting. And I found out from Katie Robert, because when I finished the book, Katie Robert's the reason I read the book, because it looked too like women's fiction-y to me, and it is kind of, but it was very sexy, and it's that kind of a line that I like. I like it to be super sexy, and it can teach me something. Like, it's not like I'm opposed to, you know, the issues being talked about. I love that. I just still want the romance to be important. And I feel like a lot of times if authors are trying to tell a women's fiction story or a story with more meaning, they think that they can't have as much sex in it. And then I'm bored, because I'm like, you've built up this beautiful sexual tension and no one's doing anything with it. So I really enjoyed it. The reason I gave it 4.5 is because there wasn't enough sex in it for it being a book about this. And the situations that they set up are so interesting, and then there's a lot of talking about it after the fact. And I was like, why aren't you showing me what you're doing? Like, show this to me. But it was really well done. And anyway, I found out from Katie Robert when I messaged her thing. I was like, oh my God, I read this because of you. I loved it. I would really like to see there be a book about Naomi, who, that's a character we meet. It's Josh's ex, who they were like partnered together and they made a lot of films together, and they were mostly a relationship of convenience because it was easy and it was someone who understood each other's work and they wouldn't get jealous in that way. And she seems like she would be an antagonist, but it becomes clear that she is probably going to be in another book. And I was like, oh, I want to see about Naomi. And Katie is like, there's going to be one about her. And so I was like, yes. So I'm excited. So I read that. Then I read Crazy Stupid Bromance, which was on my list. This was an arc that I just got approved for, and it worked out perfectly because I had just read Undercover Bromance. This one is a Friends to Lovers. It takes place 18 months after the last one. So the couple from the second book, it is about to be their wedding, which was so cute to see because Mac, the hero from that one, who is like the reason that the Bromance book club exists and everything, is like because of him. And he's the one who's really always trying to help his friends. He is just the squishiest, most wonderful guy. And it's his wedding that's about to take place. And then since it's been 18 months since then, Alexis, who was a important character in the last book, she is one of the women who was assaulted by the creepy celebrity chef. It's been 18 months, and her cafe has become kind of a safe place for women to come and talk to her, whether they were assaulted by the same guy that she was or just women getting through trauma. And Noah, he was one of our characters in the last book who, he was a hacktivist when he was young, and he actually helped them take down this guy. And so we don't see like exactly how it happened, but just from everyone like being put in the same area, like they've become friends, and they're now best friends 18 months later. And it's very clear to all the other friends that they just need to make it happen. They need to go for it. And it's the case of like, I don't want to ruin this. And for Alexis, she's like, this is the healthiest relationship I've had with a man in my life, because her dad, she doesn't have a dad. Her mom is gone. She, you know, was abused by men of by a man of power over her. So she's never had that. And Noah, he was kind of a troubled youth, but he's a successful businessman now, and he doesn't, of course, want to pressure Alexis. But their friends are like, dude, you both are into each other. Let's make it happen. And so, of course, Mac gives him a book to read, and there's just a lot of cute stuff. And so this one was the steamiest of the series because they actually get together kind of relatively early for this kind of book. And I think part of it is because there's not like the hate to love to overcome, or the like, you know, marriage issues that there was in the first one. So we're not having to like ease our way into the sexual encounter part of it. And then the author just kind of like wham bam, they're going at it like rabbits for a good part of the book. And this happened pretty early on. So I said in one of my updates for this, I was like, I wonder like what the main conflict's going to be, because there's the conflict about will they, won't they, and that gets hit on like pretty early. And so then I was like, ooh, what's the big conflict going to be? And I was worried, right? I'm always worried when I don't know what the conflict is going to be, because I'm like, what's this going to be? And it was number one, a pretty legitimate conflict to have come up. Like, it's an issue I would see coming up. And because Alexis is already nervous, not to be with him, but to be in a relationship, because she hasn't had a good one. And so, you know, her running from him is understandable. And he's a lasher. Like, we've seen him be this real steady, great guy for her, but he has a lot of pain and a lot of hate, like, hidden down in there. So when he gets, like, triggered with that, he lashes out in kind of a cruel way. But I love this. This was another book with, like, mutual grovel, only I liked it better because, like, they both did need to grovel. Whereas in the last one, I said I hated that Mac had to grovel when it was 95% not his fault. It was mostly all her. He did a very little thing wrong, and she took the rest of it away. Whereas in this one, they both equally, like, hurt each other a lot. Especially being best friends. They know where to punch, and they did. So, but I really liked this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It has some things personal to the author that happened in it. Which was really cool. I always love when an author has like a little bit of like own voices for something, you know, not always when it's like racial or sexual, but like just an event that happens to be like, I lived through this, and that's why I had firsthand experience about this process. So I really like that. This clip is getting really long, sorry. But then the last thing I want to say is I started another arc. So I am loving this readathon for the fact that I feel pushed to read my arcs. Not so much cleaning out other things, and I don't think I will end up picking up a disability rep just because I don't have one in my Kindle and I'm liking clearing it out. But I definitely will have bingos all the way around it. But I don't know. I just don't want to pick another one just to have one for it, where every other book is one I already owned, and I'm liking doing that. Yeah, so I probably won't do that. But I started The Princess and the Rogue, which it's kind of funny because the 2 arcs that I have left are The Princess and the Rogue and then The Duke's Princess Bride, which I've heard that is getting rewritten a little bit. So I think I have the old version. So if I have issues with it, I hope that they'll be like fixed in the final one, but I haven't even started it yet, so I don't know. But The Princess and the Rogue is like, feels like an Anastasia retelling. And it's funny because her name is Anastasia, but this takes place 100 years before that, so it's not. But we have this princess, Anastasia, and her family, her brother has just been killed. And so the guy who betrayed him is going to like marry her and like try to take over. But her and her servant, Elizabeth, whatever, they like hit him over the head and run away. And so they run to New York. And so she's been working for a Dowager Duchess as her companion for the last year. And it's so funny because the first scene, like, I was instantly into it because not only they start off with like right in the action where like her and her maid are like taking their family jewels and like running for it. But then she also is like teaching some ladies of the night how to read. So she goes to this brothel and is like teaching some ladies to read because she is philanthropic like that. And our character, I think he's supposed to be an earl, I'm not sure, but he comes in and he's part of this notorious group. So that's the thing. This is the 3rd in a series, and I did buy the first 2, but I didn't end up reading them, and because they're historical romance, that doesn't really matter to me. Like, I'll read stuff out of order. It's fine. But I can tell that the other 2 already found, you know, like they're talked about. But he was the last one of this trio. And they like, I don't really know what they do yet is the thing. But they're this trio who like was a notorious bachelor trio. And he goes to this brothel because he hasn't been to one in a while. And he ends up walking into the room where Anna, because Anastasia, her nickname's Anya, and she's going by Anna. She's going by Anna Brown, which is fun, it's funny. Because I think that's the name of the lady who pretended to be Anastasia. So there's just so many cool things in here if you know them. If you don't know them, you'll be fine. But I know a bit about Russian history just because I'm a nerd for the Romanovs and things like that. And he thinks that she is a prostitute. And I love this trope. I love the thinks that someone's for sale, but they're not. And Anna is just like immediately taken with him, even though he's propositioning her. He does it in this really smooth way. And it is called The Princess and the Rogue. So it's happening and I'm like, woo, are we having our hero do this? And I'm like, well, he's a rogue, so he's not supposed to be perfect. And so he like walks up to her and he's like, okay, we both know why I'm here. How much for you? He's like, we don't need to play coy, just tell me how much. And she's just like, well, what if I told you it was 500 pounds? And he's like, done. I'll pay it. And so she's just like, what? And so he comes up and he just starts like kissing her. And she's just like really into it. Like she's into it. But then the madam comes in and she's like, sir, what are you doing? And he's like, I've decided I want her. This is how much I'm going to pay you. And first the madam's like, oh. She's like, I'm sorry. She's not for sale. She's not a prostitute. And he's like, what? Don't play games with me. Like, I'm willing to pay. Just sell her to me. Or not sell her to me, but let me have a night with her. And she's like, I'm sorry. She's not for sale for any price. And so Anna's like, thank you for your time, sir. And she leaves. But then, and this is where I'll stop because I'm making a whole video about this one clip. She's like, he is the Dowager Duchess's nephew. And so that's how they're going to meet up. But the man who wants to marry her and like, you know, take over, he is after her. And so Sebastian is going to have to like protect her. So there you go. I'll stop. There's still 2 more days of the readathon and I think I just have 2 books left to read. I think I just have 2 books left. Because I need to do Big Ben, which I just downloaded on audio so I can listen to it along with it. And and then those two arcs, The Princess and the Rogue and The Duke's Princess Bride. And I think I completed it. So I think I can do this. All right. Hey guys, this is an interesting angle, isn't it? I like hooked you up to my shower curtain because I need to put my makeup on, but I wanted to do an update. So it is morning 6 of the Kindle Clear Out Readathon, and this is actually going to be my like last day. I'm going to wrap this up this afternoon because just the way that my videos go, I don't want to have to put a different video on Sunday, but I always put my like weekly reading and wrap up on Sunday, and that's what this is going to be. So, but I'm feeling good because I only have like 30% of one book left and then like 20% of another book left. And I got really excited because the book that was my shortest ebook was called Between Dusk and Dawn, or Dawn and Dusk, and it is a like fantasy, paranormal, fated mate romance, and it's about this couple. One is the Night King and one is the like day princess, and they're fated mates, and her father is keeping them apart, and it's a really horrible thing to keep your fated mates apart. And so this novella is about, they already know that they're mate, like all of that stuff, and it's about them like escaping and like getting her back to the Night Kingdom, Night Realm. They call it Realm, that's what it's called. I want to call it Night Court because, you know. And so I'm going to put on makeup while I talk, so sorry you get a weird angle. But anyway, so that one was cool. And then the next book, I was just planning to read that one because it was my shortest book. But then I discovered that the next book, which is the first book in the series and is a full-length book, has a blind hero because he's been cursed. And we see him get cursed at the end of the novella because he is the son of our couple in that one. And then this is about him trying to break his curse, but he's blind for 70% of the book. It was really good. I'll talk more, like, I'll wrap up the whole story when, like, at the end, because I'm not quite done with it yet, but I loved it. I'm loving it. And I don't know that she has plans to make another one, but I want it because it was great. The other book that I finished already was The Princess and the Rogue by Kate Bateman. This was an e-arc. I only have, well, actually I just got accepted for some more, but I read 3 e-arcs this week. So Bree, your readathon helped me do that. Although I did already like ask for some more because there was some new books up on NetGalley that I wanted. But I felt good that it had me in the momentum of reading them. And so I actually only have one left that's due this year because I was trying to get the ones done that were due in 2020. The rest that I have come out in 2021. So I'm like not in as much of a hurry for those. But this one was about a princess from Russia in 1815. So I think it was one, I don't know which revolution that it was. They had a lot. But she has to run away. So it's Princess Anastasia. She changes her name to Anna Brown. I love it. If you know the history of the Princess Anastasia and the people who pretended to be her, this will be fun for you, even though this is taking place in 100 years before then. So it's kind of, it's in Regency. So, but anyway, so she escapes to London with her maid, and then they end up in the care of this Dowager Duchess, and then there's some people who find out who she is, who are looking for her, and so then this Dowager, her great nephew, is a Bow Street detective, and she ends up under his protection, and it's super steamy and sexy. They meet for the first time at a brothel because Anna is teaching the prostitutes how to read and write and stuff like that, and he meets her there and thinks she's a prostitute, and he totally like propositions her, and she's just like, how much would you pay me? And he's like, whatever you want. And so she's like, 500 pounds, and he's like, done. I'll write it down right now. So she's just like stunned, and he like comes up and like starts kissing her, and she's just like, whew. And then the madam comes in and is like, sir, you can't buy her. She doesn't work here. And he's like, come on, don't mess with me. I said I would pay 500 pounds. I want her. And she's just like, I'm not for sale, but you made me think about it, and leaves. And I was like, oh my God, it was fabulous. I love that trope, the like, like when someone thinks someone's a prostitute or an escort, because I'm weird like that. I didn't end up doing my makeup at all. Today I am going to the farmer's market this morning. So one of my friends is having a party, so I'm gonna go pick up some things for there. I'm baking some brownies to bring to their house tonight. They're having an apartment warming party. And then when I get back, I need to film 3 videos, get them uploaded, get it all ready, and then I will finish reading. So the second one is called the Fae King's Curse. That's the one after From Dawn Till Dusk. And then when I've read that one, I'll have hit all my reading prompts. And so all I'll have left is to post the vlog, which after I record that part and edit it, that'll be done. And then I'm attending the live show on Sunday night, which it'll be a day of live shows because we have our Taboo Book Club at 4, and then we have this one at 7. So it's gonna be great. I'm gonna be online a lot. So yeah, it's really successful. I'm happy to end it a day early because I did that and more than I expected. I'll talk about that in the wrap up. And this vlog was probably super long, but you guys seem to like those. I hope you enjoy it. And I did miss vlogging. It's just, it's not practical to me to make a video that is, I don't even know how much content I have for this, but I assume after my wrap up that it'll be over an hour, and it's just, those videos don't always do as well for the time you put into them, especially when they're a vlog, because if the people don't know you or appreciate you, they don't want to watch you for that amount of time. So anyway, just some tips, like vlogging is good if you can do it, but I just prefer to do the weekly reading wrap-ups and talk about the books instead of popping in situations like this where the lighting's wonky and I don't have makeup on, and I don't mind not having makeup on, but it's just better for me to like sit down with my thoughts on the book and share it. So, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get a move on. I got a lot to do today. I woke up with a lot of energy, which is funny because I was up till almost 3 reading that one last night, and I would have stayed up to finish it, but I just could not keep my eyes open, and I was like, I'd rather enjoy this. So I'm just gonna go to sleep and wake up and get to it. And I don't often do that. I usually am like, screw it, I'm gonna finish this book, but I let myself go to sleep this time. So, all right. All right. Okay, obviously I'm filming this the same time as I filmed the beginning clip, and later in the day on Saturday, I did get a bunch of my errands done, and now I wanted to kind of go through everything. So first I'll like show you my board here, which I had made this like cute, awkward little one, and so you can see the only 2 things I have left right now is to post the wrap up, which I will do as soon as I finish filming this, and then attend the live show, which I plan to do tonight. You're seeing this on Sunday. The live show is tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time, so 8 p.m. Eastern Time on In Love and Words channel, and I'm super excited. I'm going to show up and support everybody. I had a wonderful time. So let's kind of go through the books that I read and then what prompts that they covered, because we, of course, had some change around from my TBR. So the books that I read, there was 2 of them that I read in September still, so they're actually like talked about in my weekly reading wrap up for that. But that was Some Sort of Crazy and The Negotiator, which both were my oldest purchased Kindle items on my device. So I actually have only been I don't always purchase things, and the things that I do purchase, it's usually because I've already read it already and I want a copy of it to have in like all forms, or it's like one that I'm buying it and reading it right away. So there was only a couple of these that I bought them when they were free, or an author I love was having a sale, so I would like buy them. And I bought Some Sort of Crazy and The Negotiator at exactly the same time. So both of these books I think I gave 4 stars to. I don't have the ratings in front of me anymore because it's not in my October page, but Some Sort of Crazy was by Melanie Harlow, and it was really cute. It was a friends to lovers. He finally is like making his move, and it was really cute. And then The Negotiator was a couple of tropes. It was a fake dating, it was a hate to love, and it was an office romance. They're not quite, because he's employing her to help with something, to like be a buffer, a social buffer for him. It's a weird rich person thing that he needs. But she doesn't like work under him in like at their corporate job. So that was kind of nice if you're someone who like really doesn't want that kind of power dynamic in there. This turns into a fake dating then, because her being a social buffer like isn't enough. He like needs to be seen as off the market. So he asks her to be his like fake fiance. And then he wants her to be his real fiance, and it was cute. So I gave it 4 stars. So that covered my oldest ebook. Then I read Queen Takes Nights, which that also was on my September. This is a paranormal / like fantasy. I never know which to call them. I think it's fantasy if like the world is different than yours. Otherwise it's like paranormal. I don't know, whatever. This is a reverse harem, vampire, shifter, just so many things. It is super sexy. I read it because it looked fascinating. This cover, right, whichever side I put this on, is like crazy. It made me think of like True Blood, but I'm not saying it's better than True Blood, but it's a completely different thing. But it starts off with this girl who she has like lived her life on the run because she knows that she is this special kind of person that these vampires and other creatures all want her blood. And it turns out she secretly is a vampire queen and didn't know it because she hasn't come into her powers. And her first 2 guards, they're called Blood. They're not like bloods, but like blood in the singular. And she basically will be building a harem of men and women who feed her blood to give her strength. And then each blood that she takes on, because all of her blood are like creatures themselves, they're shifters. She has a panther shifter, a wolf shifter, a dragon shifter, a horse shifter. She ends up with this whole literally like stable / harem full of people, creatures that they take blood from her, and they give it to her, and it's blood orgies everywhere. It was crazy. But I read that one for the newest ebook that I grabbed, because the other newest ebook that I grabbed, I did not end up wanting to read it. So that was the main change that happened, is from my original TBR. Otherwise, I kept everything pretty much the same, besides adding a few, is that I did not want to read Once a Promise by Pam Godwin, because I found out that it's a book about cheating and it's a love triangle, and I just wasn't in the mood. And so I returned that book and I switched it, and I was sad because I love Pam Godwin, but I did it. So loved that. Then I read Love and Other Disasters, which was an ebook that I just picked up, or an e-arc. I go on a bit of a rant to that. If you watch the vlog part of it, I was not a big fan of it, and so I gave it a 3-star, and I wrote a pretty detailed review of it on my Goodreads. I don't know when this book comes out. I think it doesn't come out until the beginning of next year even, but like, it had such great potential, but it just like was slowed down. And its greatest sin, it was a fade to black romance. There was so much sexual chemistry between these two. I was primed for it, and didn't understand, because the first sex scene of the book, it's a one-night stand, and so I thought we skipped that scene because there would be flashbacks to it, right? I was fully expecting, because they like leave to go to his hotel together, and then he wakes up and she's gone, and she wakes up hungover and is like, shit, that was a bad idea. And so I thought that when they saw each other again, because this is a like surprise, he's your boss one, that they would remember it, and they didn't. And then once they did get together, it was all fade to black, and I was really sad, because then I couldn't even have the sex scenes to tie me over. So it was a 3-star. I took off 1 star because the plot and the pacing was not great, and I took off another star because the sexual chemistry, nothing happened with it. And I'm sorry, like, this might be good for people who don't want a lot of sex in your books, but also the pacing was weird, so I didn't love that. But I read that as an e-arc, and I posted a review of it, so that covered 2 prompts for me. Then, like I said, I got on a little bit of a roll with the e-arcs. So I read 2 more e-arcs that didn't even like cover anything. I just was like, I'm gonna keep pushing through these, because I had a few arcs on my list. So the arcs that I already had on my list, I read The Princess and the Rogue, which I just talked about in the last clip. It is a Russian princess has to run away, and she ends up in London, and she ends up under the protection of this roguish Bow Street runner, or Bow Street investigator, whatever they want to call him, and they end up having some sexy times together while trying to stop people coming after her. So it was really fun. I gave it 5 stars. This book comes out the very end of December, and it's book 3 in a series. So if what I said excited you, you could go read the other 2 by her, or if you're someone who has a NetGalley account and is always looking for arcs, you should try to get it. The Princess and the Rogue by Kate Bateman. Loved it. Then I got approved for Crazy Stupid Bromance, like right after I did my TBR for this. So I was super excited for Crazy Stupid Bromance, because I had just read Undercover Bromance last month. And like, I was on the wish list for Crazy Stupid Bromance, and it's for, I think it's Berkeley. And I get like, Berkeley sometimes takes me, sometimes doesn't. I haven't figured out a great system for like how they pick their NetGalleys. I don't know. Maybe I just need to get on the publisher's like list for them somehow. But anyway, I got it, and I gave this 5 stars. I really liked it. It was a friends to lovers. Again, I talk about this in the vlogging part, but I loved the connection between these 2 characters. They made me so happy. You could just feel their friendship. Like, it wasn't someone just telling me they're friends. Like, they were showing me they were friends. And all of their friends could see it. And so we have the other members of the Bromance Book Club. Noah, he's not officially a part of the Bromance Book Club, but he worked with them in the previous one when we were trying to take down that evil chef, that asshole. And Alexis, she was one of the women who was assaulted by that asshole chef. And so they like met through that, and now it's been 18 months since then, and they're like best friends, and you can feel it, and it was great. And the issues that they went through, some of them were exaggerated, but for what Alexis has been through, I understood her overreactions because she hasn't had a healthy relationship with men. And so she wants to trust Noah with everything, but there's still, when we go into like romance area with it, she doesn't know how to handle it. So I was okay with it and I loved it. Gave it 5 stars. Mwah, chef's kiss. Loved it. Then the rest of the ones I read for the readathon is Big Ben. This book I bought because Katie Robert told me to. She said it was really sexy and fun. This one was my BIPOC author because Nana Malone is black. Our main character is biracial. And Big Ben is like, they describe him as like Alexander Skarsgård. They like literally call him the Viking when she first meets him. And she meets him by, she's hiding in a closet. And then he hides in the same closet because he's trying to steal some information from these bad people. And he works for this like secret organization, but he's also trying to take down the bad parts of that organization because that got his friend killed. And so for the last few years, him and his buddies have been trying to take this down, which I love it. But they end up locked in a closet together and they kind of feel each other up a little bit. But she has a boyfriend and he basically just wants to, in the beginning, just wants to like get with her because he wants to make sure she's not going to say anything because he hides the flash drive in her purse and then has to negotiate with her to get it back, which was great. And then he ends up like scooping her from where she works and taking her on as his like project coordinator or whatever because he like builds hotels and stuff and blah blah. I'm trying to talk quickly. And it's really sexy. The thing that I do like but I don't like right this minute is that this is actually a trilogy that stays focused on these 3. So that means that this book, it's a really slow burn. She is like, she was still with her boyfriend until the 72% of this book. Like, her boyfriend's a complete asshole and that's fine, but they don't like do anything with each other, obviously, until it's like done, but also not until like 72% of the book that I'm in. And then there's a cliffhanger on this one because all 3 of them like go together. So I think the next is like the benefactor and then it's like the benefit because they all have like Ben in them because his name is Ben. So loving it. I gave it 4 stars though just because I like my pace to be a bit better. But if I were to look at it as like it's a trilogy, so you squish all of them together, then they're actually getting together at like the 30% mark, but still. But I also like, I bought this one on Audible to like listen to it and read it. So that covered my BIPOC author. And then the shortest ebook I just read, Between Dawn and Dusk by Jamie Schlosser. I bought this one because of Reader IQ and I had just purchased it and it became my shortest book because otherwise I didn't really have any novellas on there and so it was going to be really hard to find it, but it just so happened that I just purchased this book. And this is actually a prequel to The Fae King's Curse, which again I was talking about in the last book, which I'll get to in a sec, but this is about the parents of the king that we're going to meet in the next one, and it's about how his parents are fated mates. And this is again called paranormal because like Earth exists in its state and then like Fae world you can take a portal to the real world, but to me it's fantasy, so it's like paranormal fantasy because we are in the Fae world. Specifically for this book we're there the whole time. And it starts off with because it's a novella, they already know that they're fated mates. He is the king of the night realm and she is a princess of the day court. And when they both have like been enemies, but they have these like they make these like trade agreements back and forth. And so as representatives, when she's 17, she starts being a representative back and forth and he meets her. And so he's already like 180 or whatever. So they wait until she's 21, which I really like that. They didn't just go with like 18 in this one. They wait till she's 21. And then he goes to her father and tells him like, hey, I'm her fated mate. Can I take her to be my queen? And the father has lost his fated mate. And so what happens in these is if you lose your fated mate, over the next like couple decades you go crazy and you turn into like an evil person and you basically have to be put down. And so her father lost her mother a few years back and so he's really starting to lose it now. And so he refuses to let her go, and he literally locks her in a tower. And so the beginning of this book, so all that's like the backstory. The beginning of this novella is Fenrir, I think that's how you say his name, is coming to get Zella. So he's showing up to rescue his bride, and it was, number one, so romantic. Like, I was hooked in this so quickly. It's a little bit clunky in the beginning because since it's a novella, Zella is like telling us all the stuff that I just told you, basically how I told it to you. But I was so hooked on this, and just like their politics already, and it made me so, I was so into it. So this was my shortest ebook. I gave it 5 stars, and it was beautiful. And so then the novella ends with, there's a curse put on all the firstborn of the Night Realms people, like all of the firstborn of the kings. And so I don't want to spoil some things, but Zella and Fenrir, they have a son whose name is, wow, his name just went, Fenrir. Their names are really alike. I can't remember it. Anyway, they have a prince who's 10 years old, and he gets cursed with blindness. So when we start the Fae King's curse, this is about that son, and he has just been blinded. And this one is the one where we cross over to the human world. So every year for, I'm going to call him Fenrir, even if I'm saying his name wrong. Every year for his birthday, a wizard makes him a portal so that he can go to the human world. And the first time it happens, he's doing it basically because his parents told him he couldn't. And so he's like, I don't care if I'm blind, I'm going to do it, because he's only been blind for like a year. And so he does it, and he meets this girl. And this girl, who's also 12, so they're the same age, they meet, and he thinks that she's just like he's only heard certain things about Earth, so there's that whole like, we're not from the same place weird thing. And then he disappears at the end of the day. And she makes the mistake of like telling her parents that she met a boy down there, and they think that she's crazy. And so the next day she's not able to go back because there's people looking for his like dead body in the river and stuff. And so then she goes back, and the next day, so it's been 2 days for her. And when Fenrir comes back, it's been 2 years for him. So this has the coolest premise that I've ever seen, because not only does, okay, so here's the thing then. She's 12 when this starts, okay? And he's 12. But already 2 days later, he's 14 and she's 12. But the Fae live forever. So every year on his birthday, he goes, and it's every day for her. So for 6 years, which equals over 2,000 years, 2,000 years, Fenrir has been coming to see her daily. And this all comes to a culmination of, there's more, by the way. The curse, so the curse that has to be broken, because this is important, what the curse is that he cannot kiss, touch, or have sex with anyone who's not his fated mate, or else he'll be blind forever. And he's in love with her, she's in love with him. He had been in love for a lot longer than her, but he knows that. And so they haven't touched each other since, he came back. By the time he came back after a week's worth, he was 20 already. So he wasn't touching her or, doing they literally spend time together. So for her, it's 6 years, which is still a long period of time. But for him, it's 2,000 years. So this is also like a pretty big, like human Fae, like age gap thing going on. But over that time, he's become the king. He's the prince in the beginning, but he's become the king because even though the Fae live forever, like his father eventually gets tired of being king. So instead of having to wait till your parent dies, you can just kind of hand it off to your son at a certain point. And he's been blind all this time. And the girl, she's just kind of been waiting for him not to show up one day and know that he found his fated mate. And once she is 18, and about 6 months, not 6 months, I guess like a month into her being 18, it might be longer, she's going away to college. And so she comes to see him and says, this is the last time you're going to see me because I'm going to college. And he's like, I have to kiss you before you go. And so he kisses her, and she's like, Fenrir, what did you do? You're going to be blind forever. And he's like, I don't care. Because if If you're not my mate, I don't want anybody else. And then he kidnaps her and takes her to the Fey world. But here's his reasoning. And so this is kind of a captor, but it's not. Because he explains, he's like, you can spend a whole year with me. You're not going to age. And so if you really don't want to stay, you can come back tomorrow. And it will be like you disappeared for a day. And so she's like, well, I guess I can't really argue with that. That makes sense. So that was a whole lot I just talked about this book, but I fucking love it. It is fantastic. It's so beautiful. Just, and there's a whole bunch more. There's all the court politics you'd expect of Faye and all these things, but it's great. I love that he was a blind hero, so this ended up covering my disability rep, even though I will say it's like, since it's a fantasy / paranormal and he's a Fae, he has all his other senses, and which are very heightened, and so I don't know. It's still a disability in like he's blind, and that does cause problems sometimes. But for the most part, since he's been blind for 2,000 years, he's like, so what? If I can't see, like, I want to be with you. But I mean, it's a fated mate story, so, you know, I won't say anymore. But okay, and those were all the books that they covered all of my reading prompts. So then I did follow and subscribe to all the hosts. I did that. I post a review, did that. I will attend the live show. I will post my wrap up. I posted a TBR. I vlogged my reading, and I did everything. So I will have a blackout tomorrow, and I'll submit my card and see if I win a prize. But this was really fun. This was really fun. This is the first time I think that I actually succeeded in my blackout. But there was just a couple other books that I read, so I'll say those, and then I'll let you go, because this has been a ridiculously long one, I know. So I also read the rest of the first 6 in the Vampire Queen series. So I did read Queen Takes Queen, Queen Takes Rook, Queen Takes Checkmate, and Queen Takes Trioune, I think is how you say it, because there was a 6-book box set. So after I read Queen Takes Knights, I returned that, and I got the 6-pack so that I could cheat a little bit. And those were okay. You know, they overall like hovered between, the first one was a 5-star for me just because it was really fun and I loved it. But the thing with the reverse harem, especially with this, not just reverse harem, like harem in general, because she'll take everybody. She's bisexual. She has a scene where she becomes a transsexual at one point because one of her mates wants to be fucked by a man, and so she can change her body at will. She's a shapeshifter in a lot of ways, so she makes herself a penis, and she does it for him, which, Izzy, if you're listening to this, yeah, you gotta read that one, because I was like, oh boy, Izzy's gonna like this. So that happens at one point. But the problem with that many characters and trying to maintain relationships with them is that the story just got super complicated. And so by book 6, I was just kind of like, okay, I just wanted to see where this goes. And then I know the author wrote a bunch of short stories that continued it, and I probably won't keep going with that. But I did really enjoy it, especially the first and the second one were like 5 and 4.5. And then the rest of them I gave 4 stars, but it was fun. Then I also read Coldhearted Boss by R.S. Gray. This one was okay. This is a girl is on hard times and she like is going to steal this guy's wallet, but then she chickens out and like gives it to the bartender, but the bartender steals all the money, and so that guy thinks that she took it. And then a couple weeks later, his construction company is looking to hire a bunch of locals to build a resort, and she goes undercover as a guy, which quickly he knows she's not, and he also knows who she is, and so he hires her and is going to try to like chase her away. And also he like makes her pay back the money, which it's uncomfortable, but he's cold-hearted. Like, he has a great arc. This guy has a great arc in the story because there is every proof that she's the one that took it. And if she's a liar to him, like, why would he believe that the bartender took it when she's the one who picked it out of his wallet? So I understand that, and I think that he still is a pretty fair guy, even though he seems like, he will make you mad a little bit. He'll make you mad. But he seems like a fair guy because he does still let her work there instead of like calling the cops or kicking her out. And then it has a great turnaround, so I like that. But I gave it 4 stars. I read The Roommate by Rosie Danon, 4.5 stars. I believe I ranted about that more in the beginning of this, but that's a new release. It is about a uptight society girl who ends up living with a adult entertainer and just learning about that world and like changing her perceptions of it. And it was great. It was awesome. And then that's it. That's everything. Sweet. Okay. Sorry. I was like rushing through this. But yeah, that's everything I read. That's the Kindle Clear Out Readathon. It was fantastic. I loved doing it. Bree did such a wonderful job putting this together. Thank you to all the hosts for doing this. I had such a great time and I can't wait for our next Readathon. There are some fun ones coming up. I can't wait. So thank you so much for watching this and have a wonderful day. Bye.